What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Reel Fanatics. I'm your host, Farron, here again with my man Vito. And today we will be reviewing a pretty late review because this film, I think, is in its third week in theaters, if I'm not mistaken, going on four.
Third, going into
Um,
four.
which is Gladiator II, a film that I was really looking forward to when I got the announcement for. Usually, I'm not a big fan of like films getting sequels 15 to 20 plus years after the original. Like I'm usually not a big fan of that because
Avatar.
yeah, more often than not that doesn't work out. Avatar I think is one of the rare examples where
Very.
the film was actually good, but you got things like Zoolander and Independence Day
They
and
made a
other films
second.
like that. There is a second Zoolander, yes. There is a second Zoolander, just like there's a Dumb and Dumber 2.
Dumb and
And there's
Dumber. Yeah,
yeah,
some shit
yeah.
like
So
that.
like, there's we've seen this not work a lot of times, more often than not, with Avatar being one of the few exceptions. And I would say this is one of the few exceptions as well. I will say I will say managing expectations is going to be the biggest thing for people that go to see this movie. The movie's been out 3 to 4 weeks now, so I'm comfortable going into spoiler territory. If you haven't seen it by now, not sure you're rushing out to go see it at this point. And if you are watching this, you more than likely already seen the film. I'm
Okay.
making that assumption.
First of all, he's talking about me. I still have not seen it. All right. Shit happened. so full transparency. If you haven't seen the movie yet, you are not alone.
You're not. You're
Uh,
not. Not at all, because my
hope,
co-host has not. I'm not going to
hopefully
spoil
I'll
too much.
hopefully I'll see it before next Wednesday.
Yeah.
And again, if we doing spoiler, I say let's at it. Let's do the spoilers. If you want spoilers, throw the spoilers in there or something that at least that you don't want to
Yeah.
give up too much. But
I'll do it to
I'm
put
fine on my end with
context.
it.
Okay, cool. I'll only do it to give context to a point, but I'm not just gonna blatantly just tell what happened in the movie. But I'll give
Denzel
like
Washington had a baby at the end.
you know what I'm saying? Like I'm gonna give like just I'm gonna only use spoilers to give context to my point, and that's it. Um, but speaking of Denzel Washington, I will say his performance was probably the highlight to me.
Yeah,
Which obviously, anytime you have Denzel in any film, it's going to be hard for anyone to
hard to
outact
top
him.
him.
Yeah, and it's going to be hard for anyone to command a scene that he's in. And his little zesty ass in this film was was acting his ass off. Was that yo yeah? Spoiler alert on that. Denzel's character in this film has a little sugar in the tank. They don't explicitly do anything to show you that,
He
but
said
there's
some shit.
signs. There's
So,
signs.
and before you
There's
get
signs.
into that, I just
Yeah.
want every time people like are saying shit about the Romans that did this, the Spartans did this,
Hmm.
they say it like they try to say like be manly warrior type shit, but you
They
gotta
was
remember, and
they
this
was into some shit
ancient
too.
these ancient societies, man, you've seen it time and time again where they
Yeah.
were pretty. They wouldn't say they were.
Progressive.
I don't know. I'm not going to even say
Yeah.
progressive because they would say things were gay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen Spartacus.
Hmm.
Spartacus, there was a lot of shit in there, a lot of man on man shit. And I
Hmm.
remember one episode, he said some shit like, he said, "Yeah, I'll be fucking you. You're gay."
Yeah.
I said, hold on,
I don't think I think you're
hold,
included in that
hold
gang.
hold on, sir. But but again, like that's just how they
It's
treated the
accurate to the
slaves
times.
and
Yeah.
shit. Like
Yeah.
slaves were you don't count as a
Property.
man.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was very I guess if you like you said progressive, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
This film's a little different in that sense though, because like he's not well outside of the gladiators themselves. Like the people that Denzel is having these interactions with, where you start to see, I'm like, I think his character might play for the other team. Like these are like high society people. These are people who have
I mean,
connections to the
I
royal,
seen that
not
one hoop
connections to the royal
earring.
family, but they know the royal family. They're a part of the trade of gladiators. So these are like wealthy people in this Roman
Which
society.
earring is
So
his earring?
Uh,
I know he got one hoop earring.
uh,
So
what year was it in?
I
I
don't
don't
know.
remember.
Back in the day, it used to be some shit like if it's in your right ear,
Well, you
kids
didn't
don't do
trust
that
me.
anymore. So
Trust me when I tell you, you don't have to look at what ear the earring is in to know. There's several signs. There's several signs. But regardless, I would say that was my favorite character in the whole film. Like that was a character who was very strongly motivated by his past. His character used to be a gladiator himself, used to be a
Okay.
slave, and he talked about like, or at least used to be a slave. I can't remember exactly if he used to be a gladiator, but he talked about like his. There was a scene that I thought was very powerful where he talked about his journey from where he was at to where he eventually ascends to as the film goes along and how that motivated him into molding Rome into the image that he wanted. I think he was the most complex, most interesting character out of this film. And I think, granted, anytime you have a well written character played by a great actor, is
It's
that
not gonna be
character
a
is
lot of people that beat him.
more often than not that character is going to command all the scenes he's in. And to me, that's like the by far the highlight was Denzel and his performance.
So here's my question. I
Okay.
was I was kind of confused by the trailer, and since you've seen the movie, you can kind of
hmm
I think this is something you can answer for us. He wasn't the king.
No, he's not the
Okay,
emperor. So
he's
they're not the emperor.
is
There's
he like the
new
leader of the
rulers.
NFL or some shit like that?
He is like the head honcho of gladiator trading.
Okay, yeah.
Yes,
So he was the training.
yeah,
So
like
what the
trade, like buying gladiators
okay
or like
okay
owning
okay
gladiators. He is like he's that dude. Him when it comes to that. Like
okay
they show you that throughout the film. Like his gladiators don't take L's.
okay.
Yeah, like his gladiators don't take L's in this
So he the
film.
he the Bill Belichick when Tom Brady
He's
was
Bill
on Texas.
Belichick. He's what's my man's name? He's Pat Riley. He's them. He's all of them. He's all of them in this. Yes, when it comes to coaching gladiators, he's like that. But no, he is the Kings in this. There's two of them actually. They're twin brothers,
Okay.
and they are the biggest pieces of shit. like however terrible you think Joaquin Phoenix was in the first movie, and he is terrible in that first movie. He's like ruthless and all of that, right? But like he's ruthless from like a commanding standpoint where you fear and respect him a little bit. These are just spoiled brats with power.
Fucking asshole.
Yeah, like these are just spoiled rich brats with power. So like they're very easy to hate. So much so that Pedro Pascal, who plays their general, wants to kill them. That's like a big plot point in the movie, and you see it in the opening scene. The opening scene is I'm blanking on the actor's name, Paul Mescal, who plays the new gladiator, who has this character. Spoiler alert: has a
Oh
relation
man.
to Marcus Aurelius from the first movie, so he's related to Russell Crowe's character. I'm
So
not
so
gonna
just tell me
go too
yes or
deep
no,
into it.
because I'm pretty sure they said it in the trailer or
They did
one
say
of
it
the
in the
press
trailer.
tours. It's his son.
It's not his son, no. It's his
Okay, you ain't got
grand.
to go no
Yeah,
more into.
it's not his son, but he's a
Oh, his
not
son was
that.
dead. Never mind.
Yeah, he's a not that distant relative. Like it ain't like it's his great or nothing.
Yeah.
Like a deep, and he's not that far removed in the
So
bloodline.
this takes place what like 10, 20 years
16, I
afterwards.
think they showed like an opening little like a little text to
Okay.
kind of give you some context. So it's like I think 16 or 17 years after the events of the first movie. So, but he's not that far removed in the bloodline from Marcus Aurelius. So, still pretty close in terms of the timeline. Um, but the opening scene of the film is Pedro Pascal, who plays the general. He's invading the city that Lucius is that's the new gladiator's name. He's invading Lucius' city. Him, Lucius's wife, all of his people are, preparing to try to get. I'll explain later. You're probably wondering why Lucius sounds familiar.
No. I
Yeah.
was looking for Paul Mescal, trying to figure out what I've seen him in.
Yeah, I couldn't. I was trying to think so too. I didn't really recognize him in this film, but I feel like I've seen him in something. But even in the first scene, like when Pedro invades their city, kills a whole bunch of people, murders. Well, he doesn't directly murder his wife, but he gives the order to murder his wife. It's the
Okay.
same thing. Burns all the bodies. You see it, and it was something I noticed initially in that scene of like usually in scenes where you see generals conquering something, they're usually very excited, very emboldened, ruthless. Pedro Pascal didn't come across like that in this scene. It came across as like, I'm doing this because I have to.
Okay.
Even when at the end, when he conquers the city and he's like, I claim the city for Rome, long live the king, and he walks away like he's pissed. So you see it very early on that like all the conquest and the deeds he's doing under the rule of these kings, he's just doing it because he feels like he has to. But
He's
he's
just
not bought.
following orders.
He's not bought into the mission. You see it very early on. He's just following orders, but he's not fully bought into the mission. And then even when he gets back in his interactions with them, like he's very like put off by them and the way they act and the way they operate and kind of how they treat the throne like it's a toy almost like we have all this power, so we're just gonna play around and be dicks with it. You know what I'm saying? And just be assholes to people and we're not really trying to rule per se. Like we're just conquering shit just for the sake of conquering shit to say that we can
Because
do
they
it
can.
because they can. Because even after, like, he just took pretty much every surrounding city of Rome, this
Okay.
general, and the general's like, "Hey, I've conquered all these cities for you. I would really like, just some time to spend with my wife." And he's like, "Nah, I kind of want you to go conquer India after this." And it's like, what? like,
You're a great
like what?
employee. I love you. You do great work, but
But
you don't get a vacation
yeah,
ever.
it's like you still got to go conquer Persia and India. Like, what are you talking about? A break? Like the fuck? And then they like slick kind of threatened his wife too. They was like, yeah, your wife is living pretty comfortably thanks to like some things we did. Like you wouldn't want that to change, would you? So like there it's very clear like he's kind of getting his arm twisted a little bit to, have to work under these two rulers. So the big part of the film going forward with Pedro Pascal's character is how conflicted he is of his loyalty to Rome, but also he wants these kings up out of here. So, like, yes, I'm serving the throne, but it's very clear that these two are a problem. And if I got to commit treason to get this problem up out of here, I'm willing to do that. So, a lot of this film is him and his wife, who also has a relation to the main character, which I may or may not go into. But him and his wife are working to try to get both those kings up out of there. And it gets dicey as the film goes along, and you kind of start to see some things play out. But some quick highlights because I don't want to go too deep into spoilers. Some quick highlights. Performance wise, obviously I already mentioned Denzel. Pedro Pascal, obviously, great job. I thought he handled the way that character was portrayed very well. Um, Paul Mescal, character who plays Lucius.
Is he the weakest character out of the main characters?
So like he is, but it's not his fault. Like it's
Okay.
not because he did a bad job.
He's
It's because
against
he's acting
Denzel
opposite of Pedro
and
Pascal and
Pedro
Denzel
Pascal.
Washington. You know what I'm saying? Like it.
Because Pedro Pascal, dude, like when he first, again, one of my favorite things is going back watching older TV shows and older movies, and
Mhm.
seeing actors that are big now.
Yeah.
Like you're like, oh damn, this dude. You watch a movie, and you're like, oh damn, this dude act. Who is this dude? And he's starring. And then you
Mhm.
look back, he's like, no, this dude's been acting for like fucking 20
A
years,
minute.
15,
Yeah.
20 years,
Yeah.
and seeing him. And Pedro Pascal has some fucking range. you
Yes.
know
Yes.
and one of the things I'm a reference, which we've talked about, I don't think we've done any episodes, but we've talked about one-on-one, was the Mandalorian. And even how he interacts within the show, when the way he acted when his helmet was on versus when his helmet is off, is still two different things.
Mhm.
And again, it's weird because he's doing the voice acting, but somebody else is in the suit.
In the suit. Yeah.
Right. But like, even again, just seeing him in different properties. I seen him in the Nicolas Cage movie. It was the Heavy Weight of the World or something like that,
I haven't seen
where
that. I have to check that out.
Nicolas Cage plays himself. Again, because Nicolas Cage is known for just putting movies out, and
Yeah.
I I I'll go back and figure out the name of it at some point and send it to you. But he's
Nicholas
fucking
Cage plays
hilarious in it.
himself. I need to see
Yeah. So
this.
Pedro
I need
Pascal
to see
plays
this.
like a drug dealer adjacent person, and he like pays to have Nicolas Cage like come out to party with him, like
Mm.
come out for his birthday party, like
Yeah.
$1 million or some shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
His agent's like, you don't have to do this. He's like, no man,
Like
I'm
you
gonna do it.
did.
So they're playing on they're playing on that. But Pedro Pascal in that, he's I'm trying to think of another movie where he was really goofy in, but that's what kind of happened. He's really like he's not. And like I said, he's drug dealer adjacent. I couldn't
Yeah.
remember if he's a drug dealer or a family member of a drug dealer or something like that.
But he
But
associated in some
he's
way.
associated heavily.
Okay.
But he's like really doofy. But
Yeah, that it is crazy to see like character or actors who you're used to playing serious characters, like a Pedro Pascal, for example, seeing them outside of that realm. And I agree with you though; he has a lot of range. I think in this film he was like I feel like a lot more subdued most of the time. Like there isn't really a scene where you see him like show heavy emotion, right? He's
yeah.
pretty subdued. His character is pretty like soft spoken almost. The only time you really see his character show emotion is in battle. Like other
And
than
again, when you
yeah.
he's supposed to be this ancient fucking soldier,
Mhm.
so I would expect him not to be flying off the handle in meetings
Yeah.
and shit.
Yeah, like he doesn't really like have any scenes where he like gets loud or boisterous or like takes command, like kind of how you would expect a Roman general to be.
Yeah.
He's very subdued. And even when there's a scene in the in the arena where the kings give him a chance to speak, and the first thing out of his mouth is, "Well, y'all know I'm not an orator." Like he's like it's very clear about this character. Like he's just the silent hero. And like in the entire city of Rome loves this dude. Like they're chanting his name. He's
Okay.
considered a hero there. So he's beloved, which he tries to use to his advantage because everyone hates these kings. Everybody and their mama hates them. But like they love the general. Like that's like they'll crash out for him. So it creates an interesting dynamic in terms of the struggle for power within Rome right now, where you have certain people in the royal hierarchy, I'll say, that are more beloved than the people at the top. So it creates a little bit of a interesting power dynamic there as the film plays out. One thing that stuck out to me that I saw they were really trying to lean in heavy into was the scenes in the arena were a lot more like robust and bigger. Like I could tell they was trying to like one
Okay.
up the first film a little bit. And it doesn't really take that long for you to get there. Like the film starts that opening scene that I said of Pedro Pascal, conquering that city. They instantly go into slavery, and then maybe two or three scenes later, you're in the arena. So it doesn't take us that long to get there.
Do they give
Um,
you a time frame of from how long it takes from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie? Months, years?
I don't think it's that long. They don't really give you that much context, no. But they're essentially like the games or the fights in the arena are happening, supposed to be in celebration of Pedro Pascal's character and him
Okay.
conquering all these different cities. So the Kings are just having a series of games just to have them. So I know it's taking place over a multiple day period. Um, but I just don't know. It's not that long. It can't be longer than like maybe a week or two, and even 2 weeks is probably stretching it.
Okay.
Just given the amount of battles we saw and kind of how close in succession some of the events seem to each other. Um, but to me, there was a strong emphasis in this film of creating like more robust battle scenes in the arena. There's a battle scene in here where they're on ships and the arena is filled with water and there's sharks in the water.
Stop
Yes, like
fucking
I'm being so serious. Like they go very over the top with the arena battles in here. They
like
start off small.
how did you get that in there?
That's what I was wondering. I'm like, damn, they like, where the fuck y'all get all this from? But like, hey, y'all made it work, I guess. But to me, the most effective battle scenes were the ones that were a little more like
Grounded.
calmed down. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a scene with a dude on a rhino. Like to me, that one was a little more interesting because you actually got to see, Lucius have like hand to hand combat with somebody for real, like one on one. Because they got the other niggas up out of there. So like it was good to see him like one on one fight somebody who was supposed to be the champion at the time. This was like the head gladiator he was fighting at that time.
So do you got a PlayStation, right? Or
I do.
Xbox? All right.
PlayStation. Don't play
Have
with me
you
like
ever
that.
had an Xbox? First of
Uh,
all, nigga,
I'm talking shit. I'm talking shit. No, I actually used to prior to owning my PlayStation 5, almost exclusively owned Xboxes. Like
All right,
I had a
so
PlayStation 2 and a PlayStation 4, but other than that, I've had Xboxes.
when the Xbox One came out, it came out with the game called Rise Son of Rome. All right.
Okay.
They released this game on Game Pass or the Gold a while ago. I downloaded it.
Hmm.
And it's funny because while you're talking about the arena, you play some type of commander, lieutenant general, something
Yeah, yeah.
stuff like that. And there's an arena part. And
Oh shit.
in the arena part, like shit like that is happening.
Yeah.
Like they're lowering and raising the floor, and shit is
Hmm.
coming out. And what made me think about it is when you said they got everybody else up out of there, because what they did in here was they would I think they like did they what did they do? I forgot what they did something, but it also made me think of Dune 2,
Mm. Mm.
when they drugged them up and
Ah.
sent them
Yeah,
out
yeah,
there
yeah,
to
yeah,
fight.
yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
yo, what the fuck?
It wasn't
But
even like that though, because like the Dune 2 like arena fight was like, we're actually sending y'all out here just to get killed.
to
Like y'all
die.
have no shot. Like you're not supposed to have a shot. You're not supposed to win at any capacity.
So
Like
they had
even
an
some fluke
opportunity
shit
to
happens.
beat the general.
So you're getting ahead of me because the general does enter the arena, but that's later on.
You know
Okay.
you said that though.
What I said that the general enters the arena?
Yeah, you said somebody fought him hand to hand.
Well, no, Lucius, the that's like the new gladiator. He fought
Oh,
somebody
that's
head to
Paul
hand.
Mescal.
Yeah, that's Paul Mescal's character. Yeah, I'm gonna stop saying the Asker's names because Mescal and Pascal sound too much alike. Lucius and Acadius,
Acadius is the general.
Acacius.
That's Paul.
Yeah, Acadius is the general.
Okay.
Aclacius, I'm sorry, Aclacius or Acacius. Acacius, yes. I'm gonna get this shit right. I got it right. Acacius. That's how you say his name.
I'm gonna just
Acacius
pull
is
it up.
Pedro Pascal. Lucius is Paul Mescal. We got it. Cool. Boom. Moving on with all these fucking names that sound alike. But to your point though about how that arena scenes play out and things changing around you and different obstacles, there was definitely a lot of that in here, with some of the arena fights. Like, and I feel like all of them had a theme also.
Yeah.
Like the first one, they was fighting a bunch of wild monkeys. Yes, you heard that correctly. um the I think the second arena fight was the one on the rhino. Third one was the sharks. Like they got progressively more and more wild as things went on.
I'm glad they didn't put that shit in the trailer, because
Yeah.
I would have been like, I'm not going to see this shit.
Yeah, yeah. It at first, when I first saw like the first two arena fights, I had no problem with. I was like, cool. Like this is Gladiator, cool. The Rhino fight was actually kind of dope. I kind of rocked with that one. The shark one, because the king is like setting it up, right? He's like, this is based on we're
Telling
gonna
the
have naval
story.
warfare. This is based on some actual war that happened in Rome so many years ago or whatever. And I'm like, naval warfare. I'm like, I know they ain't filled this fucking arena up with water. Then they cut. You don't see the arena yet. They cut to
Yeah.
Lucius and he's on a boat. It's like him and all the other gladiators under Denzel, and they on a boat. I'm like, no, these motherfuckers is not about to roll out here, and it's about to be water. They open the gate. I'm like, I know you fucking lying. They got the little, what's it called? The little lion statue spitting water out, filling it up with water. You see, it's like 10, 15 sharks in there. I'm like, yeah, y'all doing too much now. Like now it's actually getting too much. And then to not that in and of itself is not over the top enough. We got to have the fight on the boats get so out of control that that little like overhead part where the king and the general and all the important people sit to watch the fight, we're gonna have the boats crash into there close enough to where Lucius can start shooting a bow and arrow at them in case that
Okay.
scene isn't
Okay.
wild
Okay.
enough.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So it gets like it gets like wild, but it also kind of adds to the story a little bit in the same time. The fight itself I wasn't a fan of. I was like, this is very
Okay.
over the top for a gladiator fight. This just feels too much.
And again, that's something that and we've talked about this before. Sometimes that over the top stuff will take you out of a movie,
Yeah.
and like you said, especially when it's placed just, yeah, you got you and the way you're describing it, it gets increasingly more. First of
Yes.
all, a group of monkeys is wild. How did y'all catch these monkeys?
Bro, I was like, oh, they on
Yo,
that. I was like, Donkey
rhinoceros,
Kong and them is on that.
maybe one catching one rhinoceros, but then
Hmm.
how the fuck did y'all capture 15 sharks?
I shit you not, it had to have been. It was 10 plus
And
sharks for sure.
again, 10 plus sharks. How do you how did y'all transport these sharks?
And
You
get
know,
them in an arena.
I have so many more questions. And when I see this movie, I'm gonna leave out like, yo, what the fuck did I just watch? And that's what I'm gonna be worried about. I'm not gonna be worried about Denzel Washington's acting and Pedro
Yeah.
Pascal's acting. I'm be like, yo,
Why did y'all do that?
where are the sharks?
Where are the sharks?
Where did they build this boat at, and how did they get it in there?
No, facts, facts. And it like overall that scene took me out a little bit. Like the scene itself wasn't like bad per se, like in terms of the way it was executed, because eventually, like the scene does add to the story, right? A big part of Lucius's character is,
Mhm.
General a case. How the fuck you say Acacius? Acacius, like he was like, this dude gave the order that murdered my wife. When Denzel bought him as a slave, Denzel was like, "You serve me, I'll provide something for you." He's like, "I want Acacius's head." Like that dude, he put the order in that killed my wife. I don't give a damn who he's married to. I don't care about none of that. Me and him got to have it out. So you see, like when the boats clash in, you see him. Oh, he's not even worried about the fight anymore.
Yeah.
He's
All right.
target lock. Like, oh, I have opportunity, crossbow. Like I'm going for it. So the scene does eventually add to the story a lot because there's a lot of things that happen as a result of that scene. But in the moment, you're like, bro, I know I'm not watching a Gladiator movie where y'all are fighting on fucking boats
In the arena, like,
in the
yeah,
arena
I see it
with
on
sharks in
actually on
here.
water.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like this is
real water.
this is a little much, y'all. This is a little much. Like, but I'm willing to let it slide. That was a lot. That was one of the only scenes where I kind of got taken out, and I was like, how the fuck? Because now I'm questioning like the functionality and how y'all even pulled this off instead of focusing on the scene itself. But other than that, I will really say the only other critique I have of the film, because other generally I really like this movie.
Okay.
Nowhere near as good as the first one, but I think this was a quality sequel. But the only other problem I really have with this film is I feel like it tries to rely on the fact that it's a Gladiator sequel a little too
That's
much.
what I was just about to say. And when
They're
you were
very
saying
heavy handed with the references from the first movie.
what you were saying earlier, when they make these sequels 10, 15
Hmm.
years later, that's generally why they're doing it. They're doing it for
Yeah,
that nostalgia point. So
yeah,
what you're saying, well, I don't think Russell Crowe is as good as an actor as Denzel by any means. They set the tone.
yeah.
He set the tone with his
He
work.
ain't far behind. I'll say that he ain't far behind.
He knows he's not.
He's not far behind.
I'm not saying
Yeah,
like
he's not
he's
far
leagues
behind.
behind, but he's not
Yeah.
right behind Denzel. Right behind Denzel at all.
Mm, if Denzel's one, he's probably like 4 or 5.
You
Like if
would
we're
give
talking,
him 4, 5.
I'm just talking, I'm not saying he's in my top 5 favorite actors. I'm just saying if you talking like in terms of skill in acting, Russell Crowe is like that.
You know
Russell
what?
Crowe is like that.
I'd probably put. I'd have him. Not saying top 5,
Yeah, I
but
wouldn't put him in my top 5, but Russell Crowe is like that though.
if Denzel on a scale of 1 to 10, and one
Hmm.
is the best
Hmm.
in a best group,
Yeah.
I still.
Oh,
I
okay. That's a better way to break it down. Let's break it down in tiers. If
Yeah, I don't.
Denzel's in tier 1, Russell Crowe's in tier 2. He's in tier 2.
You would give him tier 2,
Yes. Have you seen A
man.
Beautiful Mind?
I have not seen A Beautiful Mind. I
That's
would
what I'm
give
like, bro. I'm telling you, Russell Crowe is like that.
again. So Russell
Russell
Crowe
Crowe is like that.
and we're off again, but
We're off on a tangent. It's so crazy.
Russell Crowe has range.
Yeah.
I've seen him in very serious roles.
Yeah.
I've seen him in some funny shit,
Mm-hmm.
or I've seen him be funny in
Mm-hmm.
things.
Yeah.
I would give him in tier wise, and I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
take it out of 1 through 10.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say 1 through 5. If
Mm-hmm.
tiers 1 through 5, I'm gonna put him in 3 tier.
You put Russell Crowe in tier 3? That's disrespectful. That's disrespectful as
I'm a
hell.
disrespectful nigga. All right,
That's
I'm gonna give him
disrespectful as fuck.
tier 3. I don't think he's tier 2.
I gotta hear who's in your tier 2. You better be naming goats.
Give me a. I gotta think of some actors now.
You better be your tier two better be filled with
I can't
goats.
just do it right off the top of the head. But
Yeah,
the point is, you know, he set the tone,
yeah,
and
yeah.
when you're watching it, from what I can recall, when the movie ended, you like, oh, that's done. The story
Mhm.
is done. We don't
Yeah.
have anything else, and
Yep.
nowadays when you get sequels from things, even back then when you got sequels, that was already planned out. It was
Yep.
planned out for so if it was planned out so if you made a movie, if that movie bombed, you could just leave it there. But if that movie was doing banging, hey, we already got the script for this. We
Hmm.
maybe got to do some touches, and that's what happened. Gladiator is, I think it did well in theaters when it originally came out, but also, like you said, it's a lot of people that shit us, me and you, we didn't go see that shit in theaters.
I was 1 year. I think I was two when that movie came out.
No,
Like,
we didn't go see that shit
yeah,
in
I was. I think
theaters.
I might have been like 1 or 2 years old when the original
That's
Gladiator came
something
out.
me and you watched years after it
Yeah.
came out on VHS, on DVD.
Hmm.
So it was already a good movie, and it became a classic, and it has so many quotable lines in it.
Hmm.
You know, and they're like, "Fuck it, cash grab."
Yeah.
Let's get Denzel and Pedro Pascal back together.
Yeah. No,
Um,
it definitely. One thing I will say this has going for it is it's still directed by Ridley Scott. So
mhm.
you at least
I
have the
did see
director
that.
from the first film, who understands the story and where it needs to go. But to your point, though, I think you made a very good point that leads into what I was thinking of. Usually, when you have sequels to a film, more often than not, it was planned out. And even if it wasn't initially planned out, it was you went into that first film with the idea of if this does well, we might do a sequel. So let's at least leave the door open for it, even if that's
Yeah,
not our initial plan right now. This film you could tell Gladiator 2, like it retroactively had to go back and kind of add some things
yeah. Add
to the
context to
characters of the
it.
first film to make things in this film make sense.
Oh, this is his uncle.
Yeah, like they had to they went back and I'm like, okay, y'all didn't change anything in the first movie because Lord knows y'all shouldn't do that. But y'all added some events to the end of the first movie
They
to
retcon
help
some
make
shit.
this movie make sense. That they definitely did. And they lean on references from the first movie a lot.
So this is
A lot.
again. I want to put this back out there to y'all. I have not seen the movie. I will be seeing it before next Wednesday, and
Hmm.
I'm not gonna. We're not gonna do a second review, but I will say my rating of the
Hmm.
movie at that point. But another issue. This is an issue I have with that. Like you said, the movie's 10 years after the fact. Um, and shit. No, that's fucking 20 years.
Yeah, this is 20. I think
So
The original Gladiator came out in 2000, so it's 24 years after the fact.
24 years after the fact.
Yeah,
So damn, you was two.
in 2000, yeah,
Shit, I
I
was
was born in
10.
'98. I was
I
born
was.
in '98.
I'm sorry.
I'm young as hell.
I was probably 9.
I was
But
gonna say 10. Damn,
yeah. But anyway,
Kevin Hart voice. Damn.
what I was getting at is another. What I don't like about it, which I don't know if we're on the same page here, is the first movie is all about his revenge.
Hmm.
That's the plot of the film.
Yeah.
And then you come back to Gladiator 2, and again, I'm like, okay, sequel, cool. If they're gonna do this, they're gonna do this.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would have preferred to see the character that's related to him be the general
Hmm.
instead of, oh shit, I'm in the same fucked up situation that my
Yeah.
family member was in.
Yeah.
They basically remade the movie. They didn't,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
my issue. And like you
Yeah.
said, when it's it's hard to put Denzel in a bad movie, or it's hard for a movie. I'm gonna say it's hard for a movie to be bad when Denzel in it.
Yeah.
And
Even if the movie is bad, like you're
yeah,
gonna
so
enjoy it because Denzel's in it.
I think having them in that is what made people go see this movie. And
Yeah.
honestly, that's the only reason I want to see this movie, to
Hmm.
see Pedro Pascal and Denzel Washington back together.
Hmm.
Um, and again, it sounds like they're at odds. So,
Not necessarily.
well, not at odds, but if he gonna help my man's
Yeah,
kill
they're
them,
like
then
they're kind of. They are at odds actually. They're not
yeah,
like
they in the
direct
same
enemies.
circle though. Yeah,
Yeah, they're not direct enemies because like they're both under the kings, right? They're
right,
both trying to serve the king in their own way. Like Denzel's doing, but they're both trying to serve the kings for their own benefit, though.
right. But Denzel
Like
gonna help my man's kill him if he want.
yeah, like
That's
Denzel.
that's what I meant.
Denzel is
Like
the
they at
most selfish
odds.
character in this film. Like
Okay,
he's truly like, yes, I'm gonna help the kings out, but only because I know if I do this for them, I'm going to get this.
I'm gonna get
I'm
this
not
in
just
return.
serving them out of loyalty, and I will backstab them if I need to. Like I'm not like this. I'm out for myself.
Yeah,
Pedro is like I'm serving the kings just because
they're in
I'm the
charge of the
role.
country.
Like I'm the general. This is my role. This is my job. But I'm also at the same time about to actively try to commit treason and get them up out of there, right? So it's like they're only at odds in the sense that they're looking out for their own self interest,
Yeah,
and at some point those interests might collide, but they're not like naturally
right.
adversaries. You
They
know what I'm
not
saying?
beefing.
Yeah, they not beefing, but it's like we have our own self interest, and our interests might collide at some point. At which point, now you're a problem.
See,
But
but
yeah,
and like I said, that's what I'm getting at. I would have loved to see again. I would love to see a happy ending for his family member, or not even a
hmm
happy ending, but a happy beginning.
yeah,
Let him be the general. Let him be
hmm
the on Spartacus they called him the Dominus or some shit like
mm,
that.
okay,
The slave trainers, owners and shit.
hmm
Let him be a fucking senator.
hmm
Let him be somebody close to the general. But
hmm
again, you basically just repackaged this fucking movie.
yeah.
Did he have kids as well,
You
or
talking
just a
about
wife?
Lucius?
Yeah,
Just a wife. He didn't
just
have
a
any
wife.
kids.
But
Yeah,
still, and yeah, that's
yeah.
that's what the fucking first Gladiator was about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, well, he did have a son, I think.
Yeah, he had a son in
Yeah,
the
he had a
first one.
son. Yeah. But you're right. Even outside of just the references, 'cause there's some blatant, like the opening. To give you an idea, before the opening scene where Pedro invades, there's like an opening like montage, almost like a Marvel Studios MCU type
Playing a fucking
montage,
gladiator.
and it is highlights from the first movie. You got Joaquin Phoenix with the thumbs down. You got Russell Crowe when he took the mask off and turned around and gave the "My name is Maximus Aurelius and I'm here to get my vengeance" speech. Like it's pretty much the highlights from the first movie. It's just an opening montage of that.
Just in case you were born after the year 2000 and or close to around that time, and you've never seen the original, we gonna
Yeah,
throw all this up there.
we gonna give you a previously on Gladiator before this movie. That's basically what they did. So once I saw that, I kind of understood. I'm like, all right, they're probably gonna lean into events from the first movie a
Okay.
little bit. They did it a little bit more. Like literally, if you remember the first film, there's a scene in this where Lucius plants his sword on the ground, picks up the dirt, does the literally like the exact same as Russell Crowe did. Like there's a lot of callbacks. And it's very, very blatant. Now, granted, they try to play it off as, well, he's an ancestor, he's,
Yeah.
a distant relative. It's like, no. Like you are rehashing a lot of the first movie. You're just doing it well.
Right.
Like you're executing it well, but you're still rehashing. That's still what you're doing. And there's a lot of plot points in here that feel like they're straight out of the first film. Now they do enough to make some things different. Like for example, I think the way the Kings operate to me is one of the biggest differences, right? Because I think things come across a little bit different where you have Joaquin Phoenix, who yes, he's ruthless and terrible, but he's like a king that like you fear more so out of respect because you know he actually is capable of causing damage. Versus just two spoiled brat assholes who have power, like who are what's my man's name from Game of Thrones? They're Joffrey.
Joffrey. It's
They are two
two
Joffreys.
Joffreys.
There's two Joffreys. That's essentially what you have here versus like a king who's actually ruthless and who can actually cause problems because he's actually like intelligent and is doing things a little bit more calculated in his ruthlessness. They're just doing shit just to do it.
Two. So I'm just I don't know if this is a good comparison. Two Joffreys versus one Cersei.
Mm,
Because motherfuckers, hey, they feared Cersei because Cersei was smart about her shit,
yeah,
and
like Cersei's a great example though.
she wasn't just a what's it called, masochist. You
Like
know.
she's Cersei's a great example though. Like to me, Cersei is like more comparable to Joaquin Phoenix's character, where she's ruthless and terrible,
Yeah.
but she's infinitely more dangerous because she's not stupid.
Yeah.
She's very calculated and she plans and she knows. All right, if I do X, Y, and Z, I'm gonna get here and I'm gonna get this result. And if I plan this out this way, I'm gonna get this result. She's a lot more calculated, so that makes her ruthlessness a lot more dangerous, and you fear her as a villain a lot more. These two, it was just kind of like, I ain't gonna lie. I'm kind of waiting on someone else to get y'all up out of here and replace y'all as the villain, which kind of ended up happening. I'm not gonna say too much, but like they were kind of an afterthought after a
I feel
certain
like I
point in
might
this
know a
film.
little bit. We'll talk
Yeah,
afterwards.
they became an afterthought really after a certain point in this movie, and you started to realize like, oh, okay, yes, they're terrible, but there's some backdoor politics going on, and I'm starting to see who the real villains of this movie are. It ain't them;
Yeah.
they're just the face. I will say, as terrible as they are entertaining. Like watching them crash out is funny. They are the
Watching
dumbest.
anybody crash out is funny.
Yeah,
So
it's like watching them just be dumb is funny. I ain't gonna lie. So they are entertaining, but like as far as villains go, like you don't fear them. You don't feel like I need to be worried about these two. You don't get that feeling from them at all in this film to me. But overall, like I said, outside of the two critiques I have of just too many references to the first movie, like very hands-on, blatant, over-the-top references, and then one fight scene that was to me a little over the top. I think the rest of this film was executed very well. Performances are really good. I thought narratively they captured the essence of what Gladiator is while also adding some things to make it a little different. And I think that while this movie was unnecessary, and I'm not no amount of how good how good this movie is or how much I enjoyed it will make me say that this movie needed to happen. It did
oh,
not.
but when I said it about the penguin, I was wrong.
I mean that you're still right though. It didn't need to happen, but like the quality of Penguin is infinitely more superior than this show. Like Penguin is arguably the greatest show to come out in 2024. Like you can make an argument that Penguin is the best show of this year. I don't think anyone is putting Gladiator 2 as their best film of the year.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yes, you're right. Penguin wasn't necessary, but the quality of how good that
Yeah.
show is far outweighs how much we didn't need it.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the case here. Yes, this is a good film. I enjoyed it, but it's not like this is just getting rave reviews across the board. I've seen some people that were like, "This movie's terrible," and I understand where they're coming from with it. Because they're like, I feel like I just watched the first movie again.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I haven't heard the reviews that I'm hearing. Some of again, we already know how people are,
Mm-hmm.
how certain fan bases are. Some of them
Mm-hmm.
they hate a nigga.
Yeah,
Even Denzel, they hated that
he ain't even the lead in this.
they hated that he didn't use a British accent. And yeah, I seen that. And one of the guys that I was watching, he's like they didn't have British accents at
Nigga,
all.
it's
So
Rome.
the fact that
Like
the fact
what?
that they even have British accents doesn't make
This is
sense.
ancient Rome. Like, what are we talking about, y'all?
But like that's the type of shit that I've been seeing. I haven't heard anybody like, oh yeah, this was a great movie because this and this. This is
Yeah.
a great movie. I've heard people say, hey, Denzel was like this in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's really been about Denzel. To be
Yeah.
honest with you, everything I've seen at least,
He does carry this a little bit.
I haven't looked for any reviews either.
Mm-hmm.
For this movie, but usually when movies come out, they pop up reviews pop up for me,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's one review that I haven't seen yet. And again, like you said, this 3-4 weeks now that this movie has been out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got its flaws. It's far from a perfect film in any capacity. I think that because the cast and the performances are so strong and that they did execute some things well narratively, it comes out to I had fun watching this.
Okay,
And to me, like that's enough for
that's
me to
all you
go
need.
like, yeah, like it's really all I need, right? I will say it's disappointing only from the lens that I always believe that if because Ridley Scott's talked about doing a second Gladiator for some years now. This didn't just come out the blue. He's been talking about doing a second Gladiator for a long time. So I always thought that if Ridley Scott were to ever be bold enough to actually do a sequel to Gladiator, he would have a story that is just so good it
Fire.
justifies doing a second one. And I don't really think this film is that. This is a solid movie. It's good, but I don't think it enters into the great
Mm,
threshold that I think you would have needed to hit for me to go, this film's quality outweighs how much we didn't really need it. Because, like you said, obviously, if you watch the first Gladiator, that was a open and shut case, one and done, phenomenal film. It didn't. At no point watching the first Gladiator did you watch that thinking they planned to have a sequel
yeah.
to this. So watching this and seeing how they kind of had to tweak some things about, all right, well, y'all saw Gladiator, but here's like a after credits of what happened at the end of that movie and how we got to where we are now. It's like
and
you changed some things around a little bit and added some things here and there that if you had just watched the first movie and been done with it, like none of that other context was there, and now you added that in to now to just try to justify this film, which is fine. It's solid, but I when you're telling me I'm getting a Gladiator 2 24 years after the fact that Ridley Scott has talked about endlessly and said if I ever do this, it's going to be for the right reasons, and then I see it and it's
just
a
okay.
7 out of 10 at best. I was expecting like an 8.5 or a 9 because that's to me the quality of the first film. And I thought if you were going to do this, that's what we should be aiming for because otherwise it's not necessary. So that would be like, I guess, the only thing I would put against this film outside of my regular critiques, like just the general concept of this movie and building off your argument on Penguin. Like, to me, the quality of this does not outweigh how much we didn't need it. And I just feel like Gladiator was one of those films that should have been left alone. It's a film that lives in, kind of the film hall of fame, if you will. Like it's a very iconic movie that people reference a lot and generally considered as one of the best movies in the history of film, arguably.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think if you're going to redo something with that stature in it, right? I'm not against remakes or reboots, all of that. I think you can reimagine a lot of different
A
stories.
lot.
But I think, in my opinion, there are certain films that if you're going to ever touch that name, you need to come with something that's really fire for real. And this is just it's fine. It's
And
cool.
this
It's
is where I
decent.
think the issue may lay in. All right, Rome was again Rome is not a country; it's a city. And back then these things they were called city states.
Hmm.
It's a basically it's a country, but again it's a city, and
Hmm.
there are a bunch of different city states. And they could have made it about any one of those, not continuing the story of Gladiator One.
Yeah.
So they could have made it about anything. Now, what I was just doing when I was looking on my phone was I was looking at the writers. All right, there are
Hmm.
different writers for the from the first one to the second one, and
Yeah.
that's again, like you said, having the same director gives it a little cohesion,
Hmm.
but having maybe these writers didn't do as much research on
Hmm.
the times as they should, or
Hmm.
maybe no one was in a room thinking instead of making a sequel, let's just put it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Again, because that's Rome's not the only place they had fucking slaves and gladiators.
Yeah.
So again, I mean, to be honest with you, you're not making me want to see this movie.
Yeah. It's like it's weird.
I'm going to see it.
Yeah.
You like you're saying like because you're to me you sound like me when I'm talking about Suicide Squad.
The first one
Like
or the second one?
the first one.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
I enjoyed myself watching it, and I like some of the performances, but overall, um, eh,
Yeah.
you
Like it's
know,
just it's fine. I'm not. It's not a bad movie by any stretch. It's a good film. It's solid. But you put the name Gladiator on here. So like that, you know what I'm saying? Like
they could
it
have
comes.
called it anything.
Yeah, like the brand, when you put a certain brand on something, people are expecting a certain quality in return. If I get on a Delta flight and get Spirit service, I'm going to be disappointed because that was not my expectation going in. Now, if I'm getting on a Spirit flight and the service is shitty, I'm gonna be like, this is what I saw coming.
So first of all, one, all right,
Yeah.
all right, let's not talk about Spirit like that. All
I
right,
mean, I use Spirit a lot, so I
Spirit.
know their
Okay,
service is
because
shitty from experience.
listen, I ain't never
Yeah.
had no issues on Spirit.
I've had
But
several, and I still continue to use them. So what does that tell you?
but what I thought you were going to say when you said you put a brand on it,
Yeah.
I thought you was going to do the American Gangster.
This blue
This is
magic.
Blue Magic,
This is
motherfucker.
blue magic.
This is a brand name.
This
This
is
is
a
like
brand.
Kellogg's. Like another great Denzel movie. I thought that's where you was going. I was ready
That would
for
have
it to
been a better
come up.
connection.
I
Yes, that
was
would have been
so
a better
ready for you
connection.
for it to come out. I was like, ah.
That would have been a better connection.
Uh,
Yes, but I mean, I think in this instance, like to your point, if even if they had still called it Gladiator, but you don't connect it so heavily to the
right,
first movie, like you could have done, which is what I initially thought this was going to be. I initially thought this was just going to be a reboot. It takes place in the same world as the first
right,
Gladiator movie,
but not a
but
sequel.
it's not like a true sequel. Like you
Yeah,
might get a Marcus Aurelius reference, like it's a statue of him somewhere. But other than that, the events of the first film are not going to have any
yeah.
bearing or impact on this.
And like you said, that's what I thought. I had like
Yeah.
you said that he's related to him somehow.
Hmm.
I was not expecting anyone to be related to anyone.
Yeah. That. Yeah. Yeah. It kind of like threw me off a little bit once I realized like, oh, this is heavily connected to the first
Hmm.
one. Like I thought this was going to be a little bit more distant than it was. Like there's a lot of references and a lot of connections to the first movie. Like even so much that like something will happen and they'll show you like a flashback to the first a scene from the first movie to like make the connection of the event you just saw now of like, oh shit, I remember that character now and now he's, you know what I'm saying? So it
So
it doesn't, to me, I feel like they could have made this in a way where you just reboot it damn near, if you want to still call it Gladiator, but have it be its own separate story. Because now you have the freedom to really do
yeah,
what you want, and you're not tied down by the rules set up from the first movie and the narratives that you now have to follow as a result.
and flashbacks to a movie that came out fucking 20 years ago is crazy.
It's nuts, ain't it?
I mean, to be honest with you, flashbacks in a movie is crazy when we've already seen it. If
Yeah.
it's a flashback to something we've never seen,
It's literally a flashback to a scene from the first
yeah.
movie, literally.
See, if it's a flashback to some shit we've seen, I'm okay. That's like I'm think I'm thinking they didn't do it. I'm thinking my first thought is they did not do this, but
Hmm.
now I'm thinking they did do this. When Iron Man died, if if they would have showed flashbacks of him um saving in the first Avengers movie,
Hmm.
like falling, I'm
Yeah.
like, uh, really, what are we doing here? We seen this
Like we've
shit.
seen all this.
Like
Yeah.
we know this happened. We don't need to. We know he's thinking about dying or death.
Hmm.
It's happening. We seen him
Yeah.
when he was on the ship and he thought he was gonna die. So
Hmm.
it's just like to me, like you said, it's a good movie, but there are some things that can take me out of it. I think I probably will have a lot more criticisms about this movie when I see
You
it than
probably
you.
will. Yeah.
One is because some of the things you're telling me. Two, we already know I hate period pieces. I don't much
I
consider
mean,
this a
like,
period piece,
this
and
is exactly what this
I
is.
know, I know. But on top of that, like I said, that flashback thing,
Hmm.
I really hate that in film. I hate
Yeah.
that in film. Again, like I said, especially when we've already seen it. When I
Yeah.
watched fucking The Godfather 2 and we seen flashbacks in The Godfather 2, The Godfather
Yeah.
2 is basically two separate movies.
Literally, it's two
You
movies happening
know,
at the same time.
it literally two movies happening at the same time. But if they would have said show trailer from I mean a flashback and it would have been something from The Godfather
And
1,
it's like the original film.
I
At
would have
least
been
you're right. At least
pissed.
those flashbacks told a whole different story that you didn't know about for
Yeah,
real.
that's how flashbacks work. It's not if you have. I feel like if you have to do that in a film, even if it's a sequel that just came out 2-3 years
Yeah.
ago, then you didn't do a good job of telling your story.
Yeah.
You didn't do a good job of people remembering it. Again, like I said, fucking 24 years later, and you want to make a fucking sequel to this, I'm still gonna
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah, I would
But
recommend, like, if you're trying to go to the theater and have a good time, I do recommend like seeing Gladiator 2. It's a good time. Like, there's entertaining scenes in it, great performances. It's very entertaining watching Denzel just backdoor politics his way into having more power. Like, all of there's so much entertaining. There's so many entertaining things in here that it outweighs some of the personal criticisms I have, a lot of which are just built off of how much I love the first movie and how much I feel this movie was unnecessary. But I'm not saying don't go see this film. I am saying don't go into it with the expectation of this is Gladiator, so I'm about to walk out of here saying it's a 9 out of 10. This isn't that. It's solid, it's decent, it's okay, but it's not to me anywhere close to the quality of
yeah,
filmmaking you got the first time around, in my opinion.
so
So I would just say manage your expectations going in.
before you kind of already said a rate, and I don't know if you caught yourself when you did it, but
Yeah, that's
I
probably going to end up where I'm at.
before you do that
Yeah.
is give us your final rating. I just want to say you have to stop going into movies like thinking it's going to be great because you like the first one. Because something we did not talk about and he keeps skipping over was the Joker 2, which I said I didn't like the first one. Or the first one was okay. I thought it was a
Yeah.
bad comic book movie. I thought it was a terrible comic book movie. It was a fucking cash grab about a nigga with mental health issues, and they threw in him being a Joker and threw in a fucking name Thomas Wayne, and they threw that fucking shit in there and said, "Hey, you motherfuckers is gonna like this. You motherfuckers is gonna watch this. You're gonna love it."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then this nigga went to go see the second one.
Bad decision, y'all. Very bad decision. Very, very bad decision. You
Oh
ever just done
man.
something out of morbid curiosity? Like, it can't be that bad, bro. Like, I saw the first movie. The first movie was phenomenal. Like, it can't, even if it's not as good as the first movie, it can't be that bad.
Especially when I look and
It's that bad,
I,
y'all.
I might have went to go see
It's
it, but
that
then when
bad.
I found out it was a musical,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
No, that's the other
Absolutely
thing is
not.
I generally don't like musicals, but I can like musicals if A, the music is good and the music doesn't like take away from very emotionally powerful scenes like Harvey Dent going on TV saying, "We're going to pursue the death penalty against the Joker, aka Arthur Fleck." And then this motherfucker turns around and slides out like he's the fucking Temptations or something. Like he ain't just find out that they about to try to put the needle to him. I just don't understand. I don't understand.
See, usually the response y'all just got from him. I know y'all seen him kind of getting a little angry. That's usually the response that I give. That's
Yeah,
usually the responses I give. So
that's the
it's
response
good.
of somebody who wasted their money.
It's good to see. It's good to see you almost crash out about this movie.
Yeah, that's the response of somebody who got $12 stolen from him to buy a fucking ticket to see that bullshit. That's what that was.
You were warned, my boy. You
Yeah,
were
and
warned.
then oh, even better. And this is the last crash out I'm gonna have, and I'm gonna give you my final rating for Gladiator. Even worse, we're gonna have the raw vocals of Joaquin Phoenix singing in a musical, knowing damn well this motherfucker can't sing. And then to top it off, we're gonna pair him with Lady Gaga, who can sing, and have them singing duets together as if she's not about to run circles around him. Actually, matter of fact, Lady Gaga, can you like sing a little bit worse so you can like match up with him? Not let's just have Lady Gaga do a solo because that would make sense, right? No, let's have Lady Gaga sing worse so that Joaquin Phoenix doesn't look as bad. Now I'm done. Terrible decision after terrible decision was made in the direction of that movie. I actually saw somebody in the cast, I don't remember who, but they interviewed somebody in the cast and they was like, we were on set and there was a moment where we all looked at each other and was like, this is gonna flop. Like they knew midway through shooting that this was ass.
And just
So what does
kept
that
going.
tell you?
And they put that out, but wouldn't give us Batwoman or Batgirl, which one everyone it was.
Forget that. Did you know that Warner Brothers had a meeting with the crew that made Into the Spider-Verse? They wanted to make an animated Batman Beyond
Yeah, made
movie,
me on.
and Warner Brothers said, "Nah, we're straight.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna go make Joker 2."
I didn't know they shelved it to make the Joker too, or you just
They didn't
saying
shove it. No, that's just
okay,
me
okay,
saying
okay.
like y'all said no to that, and then made the Joker 2 though.
I
But like you
did
said, no to that.
I did know that. I heard that it may be early this year or late last year. But again, we've talked about, and I'm gonna get us back on track. We've
Mm-hmm.
talked about how Warner Brothers has been shitting on the property that is DC, since uh after Man of Steel. And actually, I want to talk to you about that because I rewatched Man of Steel, and I have my opinion has changed. But we are
I ain't playing with you today,
let's
bro.
go ahead and wrap this up, man. You
Yeah.
told us about the
Uh,
acting of the three main characters, or the two main characters in Denzel. Denzel's a
yeah.
main character in whatever he's in, even if he's a
He
side
essentially
character.
is.
He's a main character. So
The twins are both played by Joseph Quinn, who you might know from Stranger Things, season 4 of Stranger Things, more specifically.
that
And
person
he
was
was the person cast in the upcoming Fantastic Four film as the Human Torch. And I'm not as familiar with the actor that played the other twin, Fred Heckinger. I'm not entirely sure if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Apologies if I'm getting it wrong. But they were the ones that played the twins. They did a decent job too, but they essentially just had to act like spoiled brat assholes. Essentially, like I'm assuming the director just said, "Go Bree Joffrey," and they executed that very well because you do hate them, like not necessarily as villains. You're just like, I just want these characters gone because
as a
like
person, I hate
yeah,
you.
yeah, like these characters are just awful to just watch them operate. Like even though they're entertaining because they're just so terrible and just such spoiled brats that it's funny watching them crash out.
Why should I know this person? I mean, I see them on Stranger
Joseph Quinn,
Things, but
he's
oh, he's Eddie.
Eddie from Stranger Things.
I
Yes,
didn't recognize him without the fucking
yeah, he's Eddie from Stranger
mullet.
Things, and he's about to be Human Torch in the upcoming
Yeah.
Fantastic Four. But those are really the only like performances of note. Other people give good performances. Those are the only performances to me that like stand out or are like worth mentioning. Um, so overall, I've been debating between like a 6.5 and a 7.
Mm.
I'm gonna go up to a 7 because I did have a good time watching this film, and I want
Okay.
to acknowledge that. Like I enjoyed my experience watching this. So I don't want to like harp on this movie or just shit on it because I have other gripes. But in a world where something is called Gladiator, and then you're going to tie it as closely as you did to the first film, I was expecting my rating to be higher than a 7. So it's a 7, but it's like a disappointed 7, if that makes sense. So that has been our review of Gladiator 2. Let us know you guys' thoughts. Film's been out for 3 weeks now at this point, so vast majority of people who planned on seeing it have gone to see it. And for those of you who haven't, please let us know your thoughts when you do go check it out. I'm curious to kind of see what the discourse on this one's going to be, especially how heavily it tied in it is to the events of the first film. But that's been our review. Always like and subscribe. Please continue to do that. We appreciate everyone's support. And until next time, this is the Real Fanatics. Peace.